Hi, this is Dr. MJ coming to you from beautiful Boston, Massachusetts. This is the Women in Dentistry podcast, where we feature women in dentistry making waves and leading the industry through the next decade. I am your host, Dr. Mary Jane Hanlon, a former dental assistant, dental hygienist, and now dentist. I am very pleased to introduce you today to my next guest. Meet Geri Gottlieb, founder and CEO of GG Practice Coaching and Development, a seasoned coach, communications expert, and speaker. With over 3 decades of experience in dental practice management and leadership development, she brings a unique blend of expertise to drive sustainable growth. From owning 2 successful periodontal practices with her husband, Dr. Bob Gottlieb, to being a lead coach with ACT Dental Practice Management and motivational speaker Kirk Behrend, to launching her own venture in 2019. She knows what it takes to build a thriving business from scratch. With a passion for continuous education and a deep sense of empathy, Geri is dedicated to helping dental professionals grow and succeed. With a wealth of experience and a thirst for knowledge, she bridges the gap between clinical expertise, leadership, management, and ownership. Armed with certifications in adult learning, behavioral therapy, the 5 behaviors of a team, DISC, behavioral assessments, and her newest edition, The Working Genius, Geri is equipped to delve into the individual needs of every leader and team member. It is now my pleasure to bring you to my interview with Miss Geri Gottlieb. So, Geri, I am so excited to have you on the show today. It has been such a long time since we've seen each other. We know each other pretty much, superficially, but in the world of dentistry, obviously. But I can't wait to hear more about your story. So without any further ado, how did you get into dentistry and what are you doing today?
Amazing. Awesome. Well, I am so happy to be here. It's so good to see your face. I've missed it. I'm going into my 32nd year in the dental industry, and I had never intended to be. I was 2. Yeah, I was just a little wee baby. I had never intended to be in dentistry. I was recruited into my first dental practice experience while going to school, college full-time, pursuing a degree in psychology with a minor in music. And
if I was your mom, I would say, what are you going to do with that, girlfriend?
Exactly. Well, that's what I'm doing with this, right? So for psychology, what I wanted to be, Mary Jane, was a middle school to high school girls counselor.
Cool.
Yeah. So, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in just a second. So I was going to school full time. I was managing a Clinique cosmetic counter for Macy's. Mm-hmm. So I was working full time, going to school full time, and I was newly married as well. Oh, and one day, and so I'm working these retail hours, and my husband was a police officer, so he was working crazy hours. And I was helping a gentleman one day at the Clinique counter with skincare and taking care of your skin. And he said, "I want you to come work for me." And I was like, "What? Well, what is it that you do, strange man?" And he said, "I'm a dentist." And I said, so you know that little Christmas movie, where the little elves, and when the elf says, "I want to be a dentist," and everyone says, "A dentist?" Well, that's my brain.
That's Hermie.
Yes. So my brain was like, "A dentist?" And I was like, I have teeth. I go to the dentist. Never in my thinking of any type did I think I would, be working dentistry.
Sure.
And I said, I'm in school and this, that, and the other thing. And he said, "I want you to come and kick the tires." He said, "I can teach you dentistry, and I can't teach you to be you. And I think you'd be great in my practice." And it's, and here was the real attraction: 4 days a week, no evenings, no holidays. I was like, great. What I didn't expect was that I would fall in love with dentistry.
Mm.
And that the very work that I wanted to do with young women was about creating community, limiting competition, saying we need to work together. How can we be nicer and help each other do better in life, in the world, at school, etc. That's why I wanted to be a counselor. It just turns out that I could actually do that same work in dentistry.
What an unbelievable story. This is awesome.
Like here I am 32 years later. And so I jokingly will say sometimes when I'm opening a room, when I'm working with a client, I'll say, I wanted to be a counselor. I said, and I still am.
That's perfect.
Yeah, right? So, but I did not anticipate. So I fell in love with dentistry. I fell in love with several things about it. One was working with a small, intimate group of people on the business side, on taking care of patients. I found all of that super fascinating. I studied, like how do people work together better? And I still do 32 years later. I still don't have it down, but I'm working at it every day. And then I also fell in love with the business side.
So were you assisting or were you working at the front desk?
So I was hired as an
loaded
assistant.
question.
Jane. So this is where the story gets interesting because so he was training me as an assistant.
Okay.
I didn't have, back in the day, and this was in Washington State. Back in the day, we didn't have to be registered dental assistants or whatever. Just learn on the job. And so maybe about 3 or 4 months in, he asked if I could sit down with him for a review after work one day. And I said, oh, yes, of course. And so we sat down. He said, Geri, tell me how you think it's going. And I said, oh, I think it's going great. I love it. And he's like, do you? And I said, yeah. And he goes, he goes, tell me all the things you love about it. And so I'm telling him, I love being with the patients. I love working as a team. And he said, and we love having you here. And assisting is not your gift.
I'm so sorry. Oh my God. Really? He actually said that?
Yes. And so in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm about to get fired from this job I've fallen in love with. But he was brilliant and he was a good leader. He said, but I think I know what is. If you would be willing, would you consider the role of treatment coordinator?
Perfect.
It's a little bit of both worlds, right? You get to, engage and talk with the patients, lead them forward in their treatment, and you don't really have to touch anybody's mouth or any instruments.
So wait a minute. I do have to ask the question, and please forgive me, but what was it? Was it you were slow giving instruments? Were you not picking up the names of them? I mean, what happened?
Even know that was so long ago. I think it was probably all of the above.
Okay. Oh my gosh. That is the best opening story I think I've ever heard. That's amazing. Congrats.
Yeah. Well, it turns out, Mary Jane, I was a really good treatment coordinator.
I bet you are. I bet you're one of the best in the country.
And I continued on that path for quite a while. And then that path led to practice management. And then practice administration, meaning, over management. And that was, 21 years of my career. However, at about 18 years in, I found myself, a single mom of 2 lovely young ladies. And I began to think I needed to do something more, something else. I thought maybe I should go back to school and get a master's in psychology, thinking I didn't know what I was going to do with that either. But I thought, I wanted to provide more and do more for my girls. So I did go back to school. I'm working full time, managing a startup with 2 locations, and went back to school. So I was doing evenings, weekends, nights online. And while I was doing that, I had a mentor who said, it's great. I commend what you're doing. And by the way, when you go back to school at like 40 something, I was doing really good, a whole lot better than I did when I went the first time.
Me too. Me too.
And yeah, right. I didn't know, drive, life experience, all of those things. And she asked me this question. She said, what are you going to do with this? If you get this master's, like, what are you going to do with it? I said, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm going to go into HR or corporate and she said, she kind of asked me the same questions that my first dental boss asked me, which is, what do you love about what you do? And what do you think you need to be doing? And as I told her, I said, I wanted to have a broader impact. I wanted to reach more people, more women, but not just women at that point. And she said, well, isn't that what you already do in an industry that you know and love?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the next step that you could take in your industry? And that's where the coaching and consulting piece came into play. And so I started heading on that path. And at that same time, Mary Jane, it was like sort of these little worlds collided. And through my affiliation and association, through the practice I was managing, we were involved in the Seattle Study Club. And so I had been going to some Seattle Study Club meetings, and I had met. And then ultimately now my husband of 11 years is Dr. Robert Gottlieb, who is a periodontist. He is a now retired periodontist, but at the time he had 2 large practices in the state of Washington, together with his partner, the founder of the Seattle Study Club, Michael Cohen.
No kidding. Well, fun fact that you should know, I started the first Seattle Study Club in a dental school in the country at Tufts. Yep.
Well, there you go. I know a lot of your tough doctors that I really admire as well that lead study clubs. That's amazing. Mary Jane, I did not know this. Look at this connection we had. I didn't know.
Isn't it amazing? It's a small world, that world.
It is. It really is. So here's what happened. So I meet Bob. I'm like, by the way, up until that point, like on my little bucket list of if I was ever going to date again. So I'd been single for about 7 years at that point. Mm-hmm. I said I was never going to date a dentist.
Of course not.
No, they're crazy. Like I was never going to do that. And so here comes this funny guy. And I walked into ownership shoes. But I wasn't there from the inception, right? I walked into this path by proxy, right? It wasn't actually my practice. And it was a whole awakening for me as a team member, as a manager, leader, administrator, as a consultant and coach. That everything I thought I knew and how smart I thought I was and good at the work that I did, and I didn't know what was wrong with you dentists. Why couldn't you manage and run your businesses? What's wrong with you?
What is wrong with you?
What is wrong with you? What has happened to you? And I had to just like, I just had it was a whole new world. I realized how hard it is to be the practitioner or really a business owner at all when you are the business. Mm-hmm. But especially in dentistry, how can you as the practitioners head down working and all the stress and things that come with that I didn't really realize. Also have your head up, big picture, looking at all of the pieces and what's happening around you.
Planning the strategy for future, all of that stuff.
All of those things. Mm-hmm. And couple of things happened. One, it was heart-wrenching actually for me. I also had to just go, I owe so many of you a big apology. It's just my own thinking, right? My own mindset around what you are and are not doing in your businesses.
Sure.
And I made it my mission to work on creating teams so strong around my doctor owners that you didn't know who the boss was.
Perfect.
And that's still my mission.
That's
right?
perfect.
I've learned a ton, and that was 11 years ago. And so here I am today. I went out consulting and coaching on my own at first, but also realized, wow, isn't that interesting? I can tell you all what you should be doing because I have this 10,000 foot view of your practices and your engagements with your team, et cetera. And I had no idea how to actually do it my own self. So I floundered for about a year on my own. I had a few clients. And then I met and got very friendly with Kirk Barrett and his company, Act Dental Practice Management Coaching. And Kirk and Bob and Michael had been longtime friends and affiliates of Seattle Study Club. And Kirk was like, come to work for me, come to work for me. And I was like, no, I'm going to keep doing my own thing. And he said, listen, what would it take for you to come work for me? He said, you have what we don't have. You have that administrative side experience, and now the practice ownership side. And listen, you can do whatever you want. And you can have the autonomy you have the autonomy to learn and grow and coach the way you like. We aligned around vision and values for sure. And, you don't have to worry about the other pieces. And so after a lot of discussion and meeting with some of his team, I said, okay. And so for almost 5 years, I worked with Kirk and Act Dental and loved every second of it and grew as a human, as a coach, as a facilitator, all of those things, all while also supporting my husband in practice ownership until he sold and retired, which he finally did in December of 2020.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah. So he's retired. He takes care of everything at home here for me and supports me while I'm off doing GG practice coaching and development.
That's amazing. Congratulations, first of all, on going out on your own.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's never easy because you don't know what's coming in, when it's coming in, and if it's coming in. So
correct.
Kudos to you for having the courage, that's the right word, courage to do it on your own. Because I know what it takes, and it's scary. It is really scary coming from a salaried position as dean of clinics at Tufts, and then going back to a commission position. It's like, oh, I forgot about this part, and it's eye-opening. It's eye-opening. So thank you I'm so proud of you that you had the courage to do it. So congratulations. So tell us, are you traveling all over the country? What are you doing?
Yeah, we are traveling all over the country, and we do even have some clients in Canada. It started off March of 2019. March of 2019, GG Practice Coaching and Development was officially launched, and with Kirk's blessing. And it was just me. And right out of the gate, I had, maybe 6 or so clients. And what's funny, so here we are 5.5 years later, and nothing looks the same as it did even 5.5 years ago. But, March of 2019, I started this, and it was just me. And by May of 2019, I hired an administrative assistant who had been the practice manager and administrator over both of Bob and Michael's practices on both sides of Washington State, and her name is Kim. And by December of 2019, Kim was traveling with me on occasion so she could truly see from the front end, like how I engage with teams and clients, what does that look like? And January, February, Kim said, this is, I think, what I really want to do. Also, Geri, would you mentor me? I mean, I'm working for you and that's great, but will you also just teach me to do this? I said, of course. And as you know, then here comes March
2020.
2020. And I'll never forget it. I had taken Kim to Catherine Eitel's ranch. Mm-hmm. We were there for train the trainer course and with several other people. And we were hearing about this COVID thing, and that we all were sort of thinking, it's not a thing. There's not going to be a thing. What are you talking about? Well, it was a thing. And so, but here's the craziest thing. I got busier than ever.
Wow.
And March of 2020, I hired Kim full time. I had no idea. Like, I don't know how I'm going to pay you. I don't know if this is going to continue. I have no idea none of us really had any idea what was going to happen. And here we are 5.5 years later. I have 2 additional team members. So we are a team of 4. We are doing continuing education as well as the coaching pieces. So we have our AGD certification to give CE. We are collaborating it's one of my core values is collaboration and seeking expertise, because I am not the expert on all the things that it takes to run and own a dental practice. I have expertise in a lot of areas. Kim has expertise in some areas. And then I have all of people like you that I turn to and say, can we collaborate to help this client of mine? Wow. So here we are.
Unbelievable. I love the fact that you really bloomed in COVID. I mean, not many people did, but let's think about it from an objective standpoint. Here we are, we have dentists all over the country having to shut down their practices, and they don't know what they're going to do. They don't know how they're going to make ends meet. And, obviously some practices are much more financially secure than others. And if you're just getting by, or you're a Medicaid practice, or, a purely insurance practice, holy Toledo. I mean, they were paying slow. Everything had slowed down.
Yeah.
Good for you. Congratulations. I'm so excited to hear that part of the story that you have just gone on and done it yourself and are expanding. Congratulations.
Well, and it's not, I know you're going to ask me some tough questions, because it's not all been like, it's not like it's a piece of cake.
Anybody that tells you being in business for yourself is a piece of cake is lying, because
they've never done it then.
Exactly. Either they've never done it or they're lying, because quite honestly, anybody that has been in business understands that there's just, you never know what every day is going to bring. And, if you're planning on cash flow coming from just one source, it can be really traumatic when that source either dries up or something changes. I know. So I was in Tennessee with a DSO that I started with a business partner last year. And when December hit in 2023, they stopped paying all the Delta Dentals and a couple other companies across the country, but Delta Dental was one of our biggest ones. And we had to wait almost 3.5, 4 weeks for a check to come in. Now, when you're used to getting, a $30,000 check every week because of the amount of production we were doing, that's a huge nut to swallow and try to manage. So it was scary. It was really scary. Yeah. So, there are things that happen, and, I wish more docs would talk about these things, because it is scary. And you don't always have the backup cash to make it through. And so I wish more docs would talk about stuff like that. But I think people get embarrassed. Like, I can't believe I don't have enough cash to pay the payroll. I remember having a few times like that in my own practice where, shit, I don't have enough cash in the bank to pay payroll this month. So, you got to go into your reserves and take it out of your personal account and cover your own practice. And that's scary. It is scary.
Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest changes that I made in my scope of coaching. And one of the things I really focus in on with some of my docs, or all of my docs, owners, is making sure that you are, sort of the profit first model essentially, but that
Exactly.
you
I
have
was just thinking about Barbara.
Yeah, right. And
Yes.
she's taught me so much as well. And because one of the things that I did that happened when the shutdown came, and even though I was busy, and there was only probably of at that time, maybe we were carrying 10 to 15 clients. I'm going to say maybe 4 that actually had enough cash reserve in the account, in an account, that they could sustain if this went on for a couple more months and not have to even take a PPP loan or whatever. So now it's a focus, and it's a focus for me. Like, I had to do the same, and that was really scary. And even my own coach said, you've got to put something aside. I don't care how much it is, get in the habit of doing it first. And, so that you also have a cash reserve.
I agree with you. It's one of those things that I never paid attention to until it started to hit me during my ownership years. And then I said, I can't do this. I've got to put money away. It's kind of like for taxes. I overpay my taxes because I don't want to have to owe.
Yeah, I don't want a surprise.
Right. I don't want surprises. I don't want to be judged for not doing something properly. I can't do it. So it's too hard on me emotionally and physically that I've always put money away to just for those just in case rules, just in case chances. So, oh my gosh, what a great story. And I hope the audience enjoyed the fact that you weren't made to be a dental assistant. And
I was not. Definitely not.
It's okay.
Still not.
But you have that other strength. And, one of the nice things is he had the heart to tell you, right?
I know.
And it put you in the area that you were going to be strongest in, not where he wanted you, but what a gift. He put you in the area where you were going to be strongest and not being
It was a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll always be thankful for that. And you know what? I carry that on. I think it's one of the things we coach is we got to know our team's strength in and outside of their supposed role within your practice.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And then how do we leverage those with each other? So.
That's awesome. All right. What is one thing that people would be surprised to know about you?
That I'm a data nerd. So people see this, friendly,
tiny little bubbly personality. There you go.
Right. But that I'm truly a little closet, not so closet, data metric nerd.
That's awesome.
And I rely on data a lot. I want to know the statistics, the data, how do we measure this? What does this look like? And I think that surprises people sometimes because they think I'm just all about, and my most comfortable zone of living and being is high energy, friendly, warm, all of those pieces. If you're in the no disc at all, I'm a high I, but I'm also a high D, and I also have a lot of C in there, which is that analytical side. And I think that's learned somewhere in there in all of these years. So I don't make a lot of emotional decisions because when I do, they're almost always not right.
That's correct.
Right. Or I'm always regretful of either how I responded so I look at data to guide decisions, strategy, those sorts of things. And I think it surprises people. I just got a comment from Samir from Care Credit, Samir. He goes, oh my gosh, I love that you love data as much as I love data and that you use it the way that you use it. And I said, I know people don't really always realize, no, I want this data and here's how I'm going to use it. Because even in coaching, you're going to be working with a doctor like you, Mary Jane, or a team member that, and I just say, oh, you should be doing A, B, and C. Well, why?
That's the first question I'm going to ask. Why?
Yeah, Why? But if I can show, and sometimes I like to
Why?
use that, yeah, ahead of time, even I'm like, tell me what you see.
Mhm.
Here's these numbers. What do you see? Do you know what these numbers are? No. Okay, well, let me tell you what those numbers are. What would they look like if? And now the you should be doing this is actually not you
It's
should be
very
doing
easy.
this.
Mhm.
They're like, oh, hey, I need to be doing something. And you're like, oh, good. Look, I have an idea.
I'm happy to show you how to do it. Well, I have always heard what gets measured gets done, right? So if you're not measuring, it's not going to get done. And if you're not,
Right.
the expectation is not set for your team to do all of these things, they're not going to do it either. So,
Right. And if you don't talk about it, so it's also, you can't just, and these are what some things I learned from Kirk way back then. Like, you got to talk about it. You can't just measure it. That's great. You can't just say, report numbers. You have to actually talk about them.
yeah.
What does this data tell us? What are we looking at? Why are we looking at it? Why is this, important? What affects this data? And how can we affect it? And how does it affect us? So that might be one secret thing that people don't know.
I think that's a good one. All right. So obviously the audience can tell, I know already, but the audience can tell you have a very vivacious personality, very confident, very self-assured. Have you always been that way? And if so, that's awesome. Did you have a mother that was very self-confident? Where did you develop your skills from?
So the truth is, there's a poem that's actually across my office, sitting on a wall over here, that my team had printed up and given to me, that I shared in a real vulnerable moment in a course I was giving. Inside this, whatever, I'm confident as a human. Like, I feel okay about who I am most of the time. I know that I spend a lot of time learning, growing, seeing. And underneath there, but people don't see all the time, is where I feel like an imposter, where I struggle, where I think I'm not good enough. And like, why is Mary Jane want to talk to me?
Oh,
right?
You silly girl. Yeah. It's
right?
so true.
So
it's so true.
Yeah. And so I don't try to pretend that doesn't exist. I embrace it and say, and yet here I am. You can do this. You
Absolutely.
are okay, right? You are enough. But to answer that, no, my mom was the complete opposite of that. And she still is. Growing up, I had to be the mom since I was little. So it wasn't so much that I've always had this confidence, but I had no choice. Yeah. So I had to be a little grown up before I was a grown up.
Wow.
I was also a dancer. All I ever wanted to be until my senior year of high school. I had no intentions of going to school, Mary Jane, of college. I was going to be a ballerina. So you talk about perfectionism. You talk about that as an imposter syndrome.
It's also the way you control situations, right? If you're perfect at everything, you can control that. So that's what you were doing, was trying to control everything.
Trying to control the things, minimize chaos, minimize risk of being wrong, or all of those things, including, I used to wear as this little badge of honor of, look how much CE I take per year. And what I also realized about that was that's part of that that imposter syndrome. It's part of that need to be perfect and know all the things before I could say something. And just what I've learned, and with help of therapy, with help of surrounding myself with other women like yourself, not all the women, but women I trust and admire and respect as well, and who are also very real. They're not like be like me because I'm perfect and you got to walk like me, talk like me. No, but just
Mm-mm.
like, no, I struggle too. I also am driving in my car sometimes, even now, and have a panic attack going, I have a company. I have clients. I have team members I got to take care of. What am I doing? Who said I could do this?
Okay, I'm going to teach you a trick. Okay.
Okay.
You need to go out and get yourself a flexible bracelet like this.
Okay.
Okay. And
Okay.
when those thoughts come to you, you're going to take the bracelet, you're going to snap it. First, you're going to stop. Then you're going to snap, and then you're going to switch your mind off. Because
Okay.
those negative Nellies are what drives us down the rabbit hole of life, and they ruin it for us. So then after you do that, you switch it to the other hand.
Oh.
So the next time you have another negative thought, which might be 2 seconds later, you stop, you snap, and then you switch it.
What's the key about the switch?
Just so that your mind knows that you're finished with that task and you're done with that thought.
Okay.
Don't want it again. Don't want it again.
Doing it. As soon as I get off this call, I'm gonna go get one of those bracelets.
I'm sure you can find one. You can use an elastic until you find a pretty bracelet. But yeah, I learned that recently, and I have been using it, and it's making a huge difference. I don't think there's a woman out there, especially a successful woman, that doesn't have that underneath imposter syndrome that says, oh my God, what am I doing here? I can't possibly be in. I remember, becoming dean of clinics at Tufts, and I'm like, my God, there's no job description. I don't know what to do with this job. But they hired me. And it's not that I didn't know what to do, but I had led teams, but now it was going to be a humongous team. And sure, I felt like inadequate to do it. But we take the risk and we step up to the plate. And that's the whole point, is to grow.
Well, and that's the difference. Right? That's the difference, right? Is that you stepping up or stepping out? And I just keep stepping up. Just
there you
one
go.
step.
One step.
One
That's
step.
all you have to take. Perfect. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Unbelievable. So you pretty much had to develop your own sense of confidence yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody there to guide you. And yet,
I've had mentors along the way, thank goodness.
Well, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a future question, but quite honestly, I want you to just go like this. Good for me. Yeah, good for me, because you did it, and you can get up every day and you can say to that little voice inside you, shut up. I've done it. Right? God, yeah. That's awesome.
True.
Just awesome. All right. What's the single best piece of advice you've ever gotten from someone, and what was it? What was it and who was it?
Yeah. I cannot remember who it was.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think I was in a lecture or a meeting, and it had nothing to do with dentistry. But it is this little saying, and that is, stop expecting you from other people.
Say that again.
Stop expecting you from other people.
Because they are not you. Wow, that's
and I feel like it is a good one, and I've been seeing it all over social media recently, like, oh, how funny that it just like somebody got that as well, and now it's running around. Because I mean, just before this podcast call, I was on a coaching call with a client, and she was expressing some frustration over a team member and the way that team member approached, asking for a raise. And I said, well, first I'm going to ask you to reframe it. And I'm going to say, what if she's doing the best that she can with the tools that she has? And not everybody has the same tools that you have or that I have. And so, again, stop expecting you from other people.
Mm-hmm.
Just that little phrase helps me be more gracious with people.
With people, yeah. That may not be at your level or reaching that. Because maybe they can't. You're right. Maybe they can't. Maybe they're doing the best they can at this moment in time.
That's it.
And so how did your client react?
She said, I know, you're right. I
Mm,
know. And I said, you're gonna hear me say this over and over and over because it is the thing that saves me a lot. When I want to be frustrated because somebody isn't polite on the plane, when I want to be frustrated because somebody's not being kind to somebody else, when I want to be frustrated because they didn't think, to give somebody a gift, or show appreciation. And it's not a way of excusing people's bad behavior
right.
or poor behavior, but it allows me, and I think it allows people who embrace that to just be like, okay, yeah, I don't need to be hurt by this. I don't need to be offended by this. I don't need to be anything by this, whatever this person is or isn't doing, because they're not me.
Mm,
And I'm going to be who I am. I get to show up how I want to show up, regardless of how other people show up. But if I'm putting my expectation onto you, Mary Jane, of like, you should be like me, you should be bubbly, you should be this, you should be all the things, like, how disappointing is it going to be for me? And how hard is it for you to never live up to my expectation of you?
right. Hmm.
There's
Wow.
that's my answer to that.
Lots of nuggets of great pieces of advice from you. Oh my gosh. You're taking my breath away, girlfriend. All right.
Oh, Mary Jane.
Really, I'm not kidding. So who's made the biggest impact on your life?
I'm going to say one of them is Michael Cohen and Bob Gottlieb,
Mhm.
and the Seattle Study Club as a whole at large.
Yeah, I agree.
Uh,
It's
for
an amazing
lots of reasons.
organization. Hmm.
And I've just been exposed to things that most of us will never be exposed to, because it's not just always a focus on dentistry, it's a focus on life and wellness and being and things that, and economy. And I've learned things about all kinds of things that I never would have probably been exposed to. So that's one. Catherine Eitel
Yeah.
Belt. Her coaching, her teachings, her ability to tease out of us the stuff that's there that we don't think is there. And so almost every engagement with Catherine, I walk away with something new and a new tool in my tool chest.
Hmm.
So I think that
She is amazing.
yeah, transformative, right? There's
Yeah.
those things that are
Yeah.
transformative.
Hmm.
My daughters. I have two amazing, beautiful daughters, 27 and 22. And from birth, each of them, and still to continue to teach me something not only about myself that I may or may not like, about the world and the way they see it, certainly about patience and, putting aside self. So there's a few.
That's amazing. Speaking of daughters, I think there's nothing better in life than bringing up a daughter. There's just, there's something so special about it. And, apples never fall too far from trees, as you know.
Ah,
And as we mature, we become our moms a little bit, right? Like different things that
yeah,
yeah, but
yeah,
different things that we loved
yeah,
about them, because we
yeah,
all have something we can love about them. And
yeah.
my mom was my best friend, so I feel very fortunate. I know that not everybody has that kind of an experience, but I did. So you become your mom, and then all of a sudden you start to see your daughter start doing things that are similar to what you did. And it's just this full circle of life where, now I have a granddaughter and I just see the way
Yay.
she's treating her, and it just is amazing. It's just a truly regenerates me. It really it makes me young all over again, just having a little girl to play with and teach and love and all of those sorts of things. So
And how old is she, Mary Jane?
she's gonna be 4 in November. So
Oh, how fun.
just the
Super
best.
fun.
Just the best.
Oh, congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Have you had an aha moment where you realized, oh my gosh, this is what I was put on this earth to do? Yeah.
All the time. When I get a text message from either a client or a team member, and they say they had an aha moment and or they're doing something that they never thought that they would be doing because we were in each other's lives or because I worked with them or they worked with me. That's an aha moment. That's a
It's
reminder of my why, right? When I look at my team and know that my own team that I've built and we're each using our own strengths and knowing that I don't have to be all the things, that's an aha moment to me. Like, oh, this is what it looks like when you actually surround yourself with people who also have skills and talents that you don't have. And that you let them use them. Wow, imagine that, right? This is good stuff. Yeah, I have aha moments all the time.
You're doing great work, and that's why you're getting them. So congratulations. Good for you. All right, tough question. Have you had an obstacle, a challenge that you've overcome that you're really proud of?
I don't know, maybe reframe the question. I'm trying to think of any like major, I think I'm my own obstacle.
You know, that you can
I
admit
have the obstacle that I have to overcome.
That's amazing. Good for you that you can admit that. Good for you. Good for you.
I mean, truly, I think that's part of it.
Is it because of your thought process? So tell me what the obstacle is. Just clarify it a little bit.
Well, I think it goes back to the imposter syndrome, and it goes back to thinking everything needs to be perfect before I can move ahead. I think it's all of that and making sure I get out of my own way and out of my head. You know, I think sometimes even just earning the right. It goes back to that poem. If the poem is called "Looking In," and you know, I think sometimes people can see, they think, there's this person, there's this Geri that, you know, well, her husband's a dentist or was a dentist, or, you know, she's part of the Seattle Study Club, or, as if those things just were given to me.
You. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I just get to ride around like a little princess on those. And it's like, no, I've earned every step of the way. I've made people unhappy. I've disappointed people in order to pursue and stay true to myself. I think, you know, growing up with a single mom who wasn't the mom, and that was an obstacle. When you look at statistics and data, being my statistic and data nerd, I shouldn't be where I am doing what I'm doing, right? If you look at the statistics of single motherhood and all of those pieces, and it's like, but here I am.
You know why? Because when you were younger, you made a choice, whether you realize it or not. You could have gone down that path, but you chose not to. And you chose the better path for you, for what you wanted to do. And you may not even be consciously aware of it, but you did.
Yeah. Well, and I work when I'm talking to people, even my own daughters who are both fabulous young women and pursuing things in life that are astounding. But when someone says you can't do something, please tell me that. Please do.
Yeah, so I can prove you wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Watch me.
Yeah, exactly.
Watch me do it. And guess what? If I don't do it, if I fail, then I failed because I was trying, right? Like Brene Brown, I was daring greatly. I went into the arena anyway.
That's right. And I think if that, in a nutshell, we could share that nugget with the audience, that is the most important thing. Don't let somebody tell you can't do something, because that means they have control over your life. You get the choice and you have the control. Don't let anybody else control you. So I don't know if you know this part of my story, but when I was in high school, I had a meeting with my guidance counselor, and I told him I wanted to become a dentist. He looked right at me and he said, "No, dear, you want to become the hygienist." And he said it just like that. "No, dear, you want to be the hygienist." And I looked right at him and I said, "I know the difference between the dentist and the hygienist, and I want to be the dentist." And then he looked me right back in the eye and he said, "You're not smart enough." Well, if I could swear on our podcast, I'd say F you, but that's what I did in my mind. I'm like, nobody is going to tell me. And I was so mad at him. But I will tell you, every single day in my life, I thank that man, because if he hadn't have told me that, maybe he wouldn't have lit the fire under my ass to do what I do.
Right.
And so, word to the wise for everybody. Just don't let anybody tell you what to do, because you get to choose your life and your path.
And you do. And here's the other piece of it is the other realization for me. And when I'm talking to people, including my kids, and it's not easy. So if you are saying, "I'm going to do," or "I want to do," and you think that it's easy, it's not, but do it anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Yep. Do it anyway. Sometimes I get up in the morning, I'm like, "I don't want to." My husband always reminds me, he's like, "Yes, you do." I'm like, "No, I really don't. I think I could be done now." And he's like, "No, you don't. You're not done." He's like, "Get up to your office." I'm like,
go work,
okay.
Go work.
Go work. Do it anyway. I equate it to, I work out with a trainer, and I was on a little hiatus for the last few years because I've been too busy. And then of course the advancing in age things that come with womanhood.
Yes.
And so I'm back to the trainer, and he'll say things too, like I'll be like, "Oh my God, I can't do 10 more of those." And he's like, "Yes, you can." He's like, "Didn't you tell me?" He's like, "You always told me you could do anything for 3 minutes. You could do anything for a minute if your life." I said, "Yeah, if my life depended on it." He said, "Well, just think of your life depending on it, right?" And then I do 10 more. Does it feel good? No.
Anything but the reward worth is achieving, right? Any goal worth pursuing is hard. It doesn't.
Well, and here's the thing. We sometimes think that it shouldn't be so hard. And I think no, that's crap. Yeah. Whoever gave that advice, like, that's crap. It is hard. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you don't want to do it. Do it anyway.
Do it anyway. That's right.
Do it anyway.
That's right. Yep. Put your blinders on. Suck it up, buttercup. Just move on.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean you're not feeling all the feels. It doesn't mean you're not hurting. It doesn't mean you're not going to put your sword down and cry. It doesn't mean any of those things, but you're going to do it.
Yeah.
You're going to do it.
Absolutely.
Or you're not. But the difference is some of us do it.
And some of us don't. And some of us give up. Yeah. And where does that get you? Right.
Right. It gets I call those still people.
Still people, or a boatload of regret people, because they get to the end of their life and they have regrets of the things that they didn't do, that they know they should have done, but they didn't do. They chose not to. Yeah.
It's hard.
It is hard. All right. So on the same theme, when you're having a tough day, how do you turn it around? Because we all know that our vibration, right? Like if we're negative Nelly today, we're going to bring all that negative stuff right into our life. And it's going to be that woman at the counter that yells and screams at you or gives you a nasty look because you're irritating her. It's going to be the car that cuts you off on the highway. So how do you turn it around, and what makes you get your vibration back to a positive mode?
Sunshine.
Good.
I step outside. I live in Palm Springs, California now.
Beautiful.
And so I get a lot of sunshine, so I step outside. 2, I have 2 puppies that I'm obsessed with. And truly, I will step away from my phone, step away from my computer, step away from whatever. So if I'm home, and then I go and just get some puppy love. I just sit on the floor and touch, there's something about petting and touching your pets. I drink some coffee, and I have some chocolate.
There you go. There you go.
And then my little mantras of Don't expect you from other people.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't that sad if that person was this, or isn't it unfortunate that this? Now, am I perfect at that all the time, every time? No. Do I sometimes have a little tantrum or a meltdown of my own? Yeah, typically in private, though, and not outward, because I'm super appreciative of all the good things. And those other things are truly moments.
Just
Right? It's a
passing,
moment.
fleeting. Yeah.
It's right. Or, I just got caught up in this. My flights were canceled in this last week. I spent an extra day and a half in Minneapolis. Well, guess what? I know people in Minneapolis. And so I just said, hey, hello, I'm stuck here in Minneapolis, but I'd love to see you. And they were like, yay, okay. Right. Like, find something to be thankful for about it. And it gave me extra time to get some work done.
Absolutely.
So, because I can either have a fit, and lots of people were having fits, Mary Jane, including in my hotel lobby. I was like, oh gosh, oh goodness, okay, people are losing their nugget, and I just can't. I just can't. I just can't. I gotta breathe.
that wasted energy, you could be using it on something really positive, right? Because you can't get that back.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Take a break, do something for yourself, or better yet, do something for somebody else, and then go, okay.
Yeah. Do something for somebody else. It makes you feel that much better. Absolutely. All right. Guilty pleasure or secret dream. Do you have either or both?
Probably all of the above.
Start with your guilty pleasure. What do you love?
Candy. Does that count?
Oh my God, I love this conversation. This is hysterical, Candy. What's your favorite?
Terrible, all the sticky, terrible things that are bad for you. So I love like the Swedish fish, Sour Patch Kids, hot tamales.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah, all the sticky, bad for you things.
Okay, how about a secret dream?
Trying to think, like there's probably some show, like I don't know. I've been gotten into watching Survivor lately.
So you want to be a survivor?
No,
Do you think you could do
I'm
it?
like, oh no, I could. I just don't think. I don't think I could. I'm so fascinated by the people that can, because I'm like, well, I'm never going to roll around in the mud like that, or eat a bug, or any of those things. I'm like, what? Right? So, or I don't know. Listen, there's so many, Mary Jane. Probably I do have. I like to shop, but I don't actually shop as much as I like to just look at things.
Okay, that's fair enough.
And sometimes when I need to shut it all down, like sometimes when I'm like, I can't think about one more practice metric or one more team issue or one more anything. I just like, I'm gonna look at shoes.
Yeah. Yep. A little retail therapy. It makes everybody feel better.
Therapy.
Yep.
Yeah. And my husband will jokingly, sometimes he'll see me on those little retail therapy breaks and he'll go, oh, I'm so glad you're looking at shoes. I'm so glad you're doing it. And I'm like, I'm not buying any. I'm just looking at them. I'm also a really much, my nickname from my team is Jerry and the Librarian.
So you have a fascination for books.
I do.
Yep.
Huge.
Yep. I love books too.
I'm usually reading multiple at the same time, like just sort of depending on the mood or what have you. Like I just purchased 5 new books. I am going to take a vacation next week.
Congratulations. Good for you.
And I have promised that I am not going to have any client calls.
And no computer.
But so I bought like vacation books. So there's all my books for learning and coaching and doing those things. And then there's just give me some romance novels and some junk books that also make me think, like I can get lost in. So I'm not thinking about work or any of those people.
Entertain your mind. Very good. All right.
Yeah.
2 questions that kind of have the same tone to them, but for very different reason. If you were to talk to somebody younger than us that are thinking about going into the dental profession, what would you say? What kind of advice would you give them?
I would say, first of all, I think there's never been a better time, even though it might seem scary, to go into dentistry. And what I mean by that is there are so many different options and ways in which practitioners can practice dentistry that are different than maybe, my age grouping, your age grouping, where you got out of dental school and thought, oh, I have to open a practice or buy a practice or start a practice. And now I see that there's a whole world of options for people, male or female, to practice dentistry, do the thing that they love, and maybe they don't have to be a practice owner. Or if they want to be more entrepreneurial, they can do that. And that we need this to continue. We need dentists to keep coming in and skilled, and there's so much available. So I would say do it, because there's just no better time. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy. There's just no better time.
I also think it's very exciting, the prospect of the integration with dentistry and medicine. I think it's going to happen sometime within the next, 25, 30 years. So it's time. It's more than time. I mean, 18 systems in our body are affected by the bacteria in our mouth. So don't tell me that we can't, be helpful to the human body and in our patients. They see us more than they see their physician, and you can't even get into a physician. So yeah.
Right. It takes forever.
Yeah, it does take forever.
And find the things that you love about it. And you get to practice the way you want to practice. So I would say do it. I jokingly will sometimes say, don't do it, but I'm only kidding.
Right.
Because I really believe that it's really still one of the most viable and important medical dental. I just think we need it.
Yeah,
professions out there for sure.
I agree. All right, now this piece of advice from the chair that you're sitting in, and today, I want you to go back to that little girl that you once were, and what piece of advice would you give her, knowing what you know now? It's
okay to dream big. It's okay to make mistakes along the way. You're not going to be perfect. And you don't even have to be. That you are more than smart enough, more than equipped enough. You have to learn things. It doesn't mean you have to study, you have to try, and you can.
Yeah.
You can.
Great advice. And that little girl has done very well for herself. All right. Two-part question, and this is the last one.
Okay.
How do you... Yeah, but having that fun, I've been having a blast.
Oh, I'm having so much fun. Tough questions, though.
All right. So how do you define success? How do you define success?
No, how I define it for me is, do I love what I do? And the answer to that is yes. Do I love how I'm doing it? And the answer to that is yes. Is it ever evolving and changing? Yes. So one, do I love what I do? Yes. Do I love how I'm doing it? Do I love who I'm doing it for? And so for me, it is, I'm doing it for me, my team, but I'm doing it for all of you that I work with. And for moments like this, where I get to engage with really brilliant, beautiful people and we get to together and maybe inspire other people. And, am I able to make a living at it? Yeah.
And that's, that's definitely something that has to be talked about. Can I make enough to afford myself, right? I mean, I think that's one of the things that I said to my daughter a million times. I don't care what you do. You like nice things. You better be able to figure out what you're going to do that you can afford yourself. Right. So very good.
Afford yourself.
Now, do you feel here successful? Very different question.
90% of the time. 90% of the time, 10% of the time, that little 13-year-old Geri and 18-year-old Geri, whatever, that little girl with imposter syndrome or thinks thinks I should be doing more. Is this enough? If I stopped today, am I okay with that, with what I've done? So I think, so 90% of the time I'm like, yeah, I feel like, wow, check this
Look what
out.
I've done.
And on my own terms, like not on anybody else's terms. That's the
Right.
other piece of the success part, is on my own terms. And 10% of the time I still think, oh, I got to still do this, or there's still this one milestone, or what if this? So well, I guess maybe that's different. I'm not ready to be done yet. I know. I need yes.
Snap.
Need the bracelet. Snap, switch.
I'll switch.
Yeah, snap and switch. Yeah. So 90% of the time.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Well, you tell Frack, who's the negative Nelly on your left shoulder, to just go away and snap him out of there. Imagine that bracelet just snapping him right off your shoulder, because then over time you'll see 50,000 of them behind you, and then finally maybe we'll both get rid of them, because that's why I have it on here. I learned it, and that's why I have it on here, because I'm done with negative Nellies attacking my life. It's just, we are perfectionists. I think anybody that's in dentistry is part of our nature. For whatever reason, I don't know why. I really don't know why, but it is part of our nature to be perfection driven. And we have to be careful about that, because that negative path is just, it's not worth it. It's not good energy.
It's not. And I can't wait to get my bracelet, and I'm going to send you a picture of my bracelet when I get it.
I can't wait for you to get it. All right. It has just been an absolute pleasure, Geri, being on the show with you today. You have made us laugh. You've had amazing advice. And not only that, but you're just a joy to talk to. So thank you.
Mary Jane, thank you so much. I am so excited to see you back in this Women in Dentistry podcast. So needed. And I love your story. So I might have to start my own podcast and interview you about your podcast and this whole coming, because that's super fabulous. And I'm so glad to see you back. So
thank you
talking to people and making a difference.
I appreciate that. Very good to see you again, too. Thank you so much for listening to the Women in Dentistry podcast with Dr. MJ Hanlon. If you like our show and want to know more about us, check out our website, thewomenindentistry.com, or please leave us a review on iTunes. Join us for our next episode as we bring you another amazing woman leading the way for the next generation.